Here I will take this opportunity to clarify a lot of things which are being done in the name of Islam. Fundamentally, uh, a surah, an ayat of Quran says, killing one innocent is killing entire humanity. So there is no question of killing an innocent people. I mean, and the kind of the across the border terror which is now being seen in so many parts of the world is totally not un-Islamic, it is anti-Islam. It is against the basic principle of Islam. Of course, Islam has laid down, of course, when you are living in the world, you will have wars and there will be strife between the countries. But then Islam has laid down very clear-cut guidelines. Even if you wage war, what are the conditions? You cannot kill elders, you cannot kill old people, you cannot kill women, you cannot kill children, and you cannot desecrate place of worships, and you cannot destroy crop. So even in war, Islam had very clear cut guidelines. And to declare war, you can't declare war unilaterally. War can only be declared when you are persecuted, you are not allowed to do your worship, there is injustice, or there are so many other things. But then you declare war, you close down your embassies. So you withdraw that, declare war and come out in open. So this whole proxy war and sending some people, sneaking them through the borders is absolutely un-Islamic. Islam doesn't give any sanction to such kind of warfare. So if you want to really go for war, declare it. You cannot put people, जिसको कहते हैं हमारी जुबान में धोखा देकर. Where is the question of putting bomb in London or New York? There is absolutely no sanction in Islam of doing such a thing. Even when you are in war, you are not supposed to do this. Then when somebody who is not in war, there is no question. So this proxy war is not, it is alien to Islam. You cannot have a proxy war. See, this whole issue about, a lot of people are talking that in these days or since last almost 50 years now, that most of the conflict zones are countries where Muslims live. But it's not about 50 years actually. All these countries which we see now, for example, Syria or Iraq or for that matter Libya, even Afghanistan, most of these places were colonized. For almost 200 years they were colonized. I mean, there was a time from Morocco till Indonesia, Malaysia, every single Muslim country was colonized. Essentially, it was the whole European thing. Do we know the brutalities which they had committed? Do we ever think of the kind of brutalities which were heaped on the helpless Muslims of, particularly the French did, and then the kind of, inhuman treatment meted out in Libya, and the British, the way the kind of treatment they did to, this whole region of Lebanon, Jordan, Syria, Iraq. So they were colonized and they were kind of taking revenge of the defeat which they had at the hands of the, the Muslims during crusade. So they could not tolerate that defeat, the severe defeat they had because of the crusade. Now after that, whatever happened has happened against the injustice. So it was a reaction. So you don't talk of the actual, the actual injustice, the kind of torture. Of course, why don't we need to go very much far? Our country in India, the brutalities which the British have emanated in this country for 100 years. Do we even know? Do we know that Winston Churchill almost killed 4 million Bengalis? He diverted the whole, when the famine in Bengal in the 19th century, early part, in the 19th century, when the famine took place in Bengal, the ships laden with food, he diverted to Europe. And what was his statement in the parliament? That led those, I can't even repeat the word, the kind of words which the so-called elite of Britain were using. So that was their norm. And then when India rose against them, the struggle, you talk of that struggle, but you don't talk about the brutalities. The kind of brutalities they did and heaped on the Indians in 1857 and continuously. So you have to take it in perspective. This, what we are seeing now, is the reaction of the brutalities which the Europeans had emanated and that started and heaped on the people on whom they had colonized. Now this is continuation of that. Present day ISIS. ISIS is also a reactionary force. It actually started as a reaction to the brutalities which were handed over, outsourced by the US. When they left, suddenly Saddam Hussein was there. They left Saddam Hussein. It was in the flux. There was a vacuum and they put a government. Do we know the kind of brutalities which have happened in last 10 years after Saddam until now? So we don't talk of that, never. And suddenly we show, and then history is always written by the winner. So who writes the history? Who talks about your brutalities? What is the kind of history which is taught in Britain about? Do they ever teach to their British students the kind of insults and the brutalities they had heaped on poor Indians? So this is that actually. But then coming to the moot point, again, yes, there is, then what happens? Once this happens, injustice and all that, then certain people take advantage of a situation and they use these brutalities then to extend their, they use these brutalities, the injustice. Then of course it has no justification at all. I mean, Islam doesn't have any justification, but then they also then have a goal. They have a goal. So to reach to that goal, to reach to that agenda, they use these brutalities, the injustices to showcase to the people, and that's how they control the minds. And then yes, there is wrong interpretation of Quran, wrong interpretation of the life of the Prophet, used according to their, and then they also become tormentors. Once they were victims, then these people then become tormentors. But then of course there are some now sane voices within that system coming out. Because Islam, under any circumstances, even if you are brutalized, even if you are terrorized, even if injustice is heaped upon you, Islam doesn't allow you becoming tormentors. So many things today have nothing to do with Islam, even remotely. Remotely it has nothing to do with. Now certain people are doing that. But I am happy that majority of the Muslim community doesn't prescribe to these kinds of acts. That's why these are acts of terror, where you quietly go, put some bomb here and there. No, come out in open, declare. So this is my view, and unfortunately people don't come out clean on this. Lot of people are using internet and so many medium in brainwashing young children. We also need to brainwash that what wrong is being fed to these people. So it is our duty and utmost duty to clear minds of our young people.